Hi plant loving friends, today I'm here to talk to you about one of my favorite plants that we grow, Albuca spiralis Frizzle Sizzle. Maybe this is one of my favorite plants because it has such curly leaves just like my hair and feel kinship with it. But I'm not the only one who loves this plant. Check out these wild leaves. And it's got this really cool bulb. And when we plant these, we leave the bulb showing halfway up because we like to see it. It doesn't really affect the plant if you have it buried under the soil or sticking out. We just like, because it adds to the interest of this really unusual plant. And if it's happy, it'll bloom for you twice a year. So this one right here is in the middle of blooming. It has this cool yellow flower. It's almost like an upturned daffodil. It has a spiced vanilla scent, and as the flowers are spent, they turn brown and the spike will get a little bit taller and keep producing flowers. So this one's already had about 3 or 4 blooms that it's spent further down that stalk. In the fall, once it's bloomed, then it'll start having new leaf growth. This plant takes moderate care, so it's not as easy as, say, a snake plant or your traditional succulent, but it is not really hard to take care of. It's not bad at all, but there are a few things to know, which I'll get into in a little bit. But basic care for this plant is full sun for as long as possible and water it when it's dry, just like any other succulent. Now, with any other succulent, there's a lot of forgiveness. With this plant, there's also quite a bit of forgiveness, but it's going to affect the plant's growth and the way it looks. So if you have this plant inside, no matter how bright your windows are, they're not going to stay this tight, which is totally fine. We recommend that if possible, put this outside in full sun in the summer so you have these nice, beautiful, tight springs. And then when it needs to come in for the winter, because this is not a hardy plant in our area, and when you bring it in for the winter, just pick a place to put it that has as much light as you can give it, and expect that in the winter your leaves are going to be less tight. I actually think that's a really fun aspect of this plant. It changes through the seasons. So in the summer it's nice and tight, and then it blooms in the fall. You bring it in for the winter and the leaves are going to be a little bit stretchier, and then it'll bloom again in the spring, and the new growth after that will be tight again if you put it back outside. Some people do choose to put their plant under a grow light in the winter. That is 100% not necessary, but it will help the leaves to be tighter if you do that. So that's a personal choice. I have had Albuca in my home and I've never had them under grow lights. I just expect that we're gonna have sort of some loosey-goosey leaves in the winter, and that's totally fine with me. And then, because this is a bulb, most bulb-forming plants have a designated dormancy period. So Albuca want to go dormant during our summer. This is an African plant, so they are on the opposite season schedule that we are. So it wants to go dormant during our summer, and then our fall is when it pushes up its spring bloom, and then it's going to push up new growth after that. And you can see on my plant here, these tall ones that are a little bit bigger, these are the old growth, whereas these little thin guys that are starting to get real nice tight curls, these are the new growth. So these are the old leaves that the plant was holding on to over the summer, even though it wanted to go dormant. And then these are the new ones that it's pushing up now that it's blooming and it's going into its growing season, which would be fall and winter for us. Over the fall and winter, you're gonna want to water it when it's dry, but if you leave it go too dry, say a couple of weeks, it's totally bone dry for 2 weeks, it may kickstart it going dormant. And you'll know that has happened because the tips of the leaves will turn brown. And if you catch it fast enough, start watering it regularly again, and it won't drop its leaves. But if it does drop its leaves any time of the year, say we get to summer and you weren't watering it as regularly as you needed to, and it drops its leaves, totally fine. Just leave it dry during the summer. And then when it starts pushing up new growth in August, you can go ahead and start watering it on a regular schedule again. And then in your home in the winter, if it does go dormant, which it can, like I said, if it goes bone dry for several weeks, if it drops all of its leaves, let it be for maybe a month, let it rest, and you'll start watering it and it should push up new growth right away. And those are the basic care for this plant. It sounds a little bit complicated, but it's really not. All you need to do is put it in full sun make sure it's getting lots and lots of sun, and water it when it's dry. And if it does go dormant and drop its leaves, no big deal. Let the bulb rest, start watering again, push up some new growth. Now I want to go over a couple of other things that can happen with that plant. If you have it in your home in the summer and you have it in a south-facing window, no matter how bright that window is going to be, the leaves are going to stretch. So that's one of the things I get questions about regularly is, all of my other succulents are doing really well in this area. How come the leaves on this one are stretching even though all of my other succulents look great right there? And the answer is that this plant needs as much full sun as possible. And if you think about it, a home has a bright window, but it's got walls and a roof. So your plant is not getting full sun for the entirety of the day to its full extent. And this plant really benefits from that full sun to get the tight spirals, which is why we recommend putting it outside for the summer. And when it's outside for the summer, you can really not think about it too much. You can just let Mother Nature water it when it needs watered and kind of forget about it. We tend to, at least in Ohio, get enough rain that it should be fine for your plant. Another thing that can happen with Albuca is your tips may turn brown once it starts flowering, either in the fall or spring. That's a very natural thing that can happen to this plant. That is because it is trying to shed that old growth. Don't worry about it. You can just leave it. And then if the brown travels down that old growth, you can totally remove it at the bulb. And if it doesn't travel down the plant, but it just stays on the tip, you can cut off that brown if you don't like it. It's just a natural part of the plant's growing process. If you receive a plant from us in the mail and it's got brown tips and you're concerned, do not cut it. Send us an email and we'll talk to you about what to do with it. There you have it. Albuca, Frizzle Sizzle, one of my favorite plants that we sell here at Groovy Plants Ranch. Not hard to take care of at all. Give it full sun, water it when it's dry, enjoy those blooms in the spring and in the fall, and enjoy the changes that it has over the seasons. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment about any other videos that you're interested in seeing, and I'll see you next time.